Hello, one and all. My goodness gracious me, it's Thursday again. How did that happen? I think because I've been crashing so often this week, it's probably just gone so fast for me. And that's just the way it is. Technology is overcome by frustration, and that's very much the case with me this week. Anyway, let's see if we can hang in there for the whole show today and get it firing on all four cylinders. Let's start as usual with the Forex Factory, shall we? That'll be share. Trying to get the word out. Share my screen and share what's going on in the wonderful world of news events. Let's backtrack a little bit, shall we, to yesterday, where we saw GDP figures come out on the pound. We saw the result of that in the show. Not a whole lot. There's a bit of movement, no question, but I think overall, did we see that in the show, or was I in another show? I can't remember.
Yeah, we saw that in the show.
We did, right? Okay. Overall,
no, we didn't. Sorry, no, you're absolutely right. We didn't. It was 9:30. We didn't, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. So we
I don't
would
know
finish. We'd
know what
finish
show I was
half an
in
hour
at
early.
that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit going on. There's no question about that. And the monetary policy statement, of course, was fairly moot. But then the press conference sort of stirred things up a bit, and away we went. Then the CPI figures later on really turned it all around. And what we saw in the early part of the midsection of London session, we saw reverse pretty much in US session, perhaps as a result of the CPI figure, which was good, surprisingly to me. I didn't think that would be as it was. And of course, the core CPI knocked that down a little bit, but not too much. Didn't really see or hear anything about the FOMC meeting minutes, which came out, but it can't have hurt too much, I don't think.
No, I think he was just saying that there's no likelihood of further interest rate rises this year.
Yeah, so no change. Everything we knew about, pretty much. And that brings us to today, and looks like I've just lost my Forex Factory for some reason. There it is. Today we have had news out of China. Why can't I see that? No numbers posted. Maybe I just need to refresh you guys. There we go. Hit the forecast. Not a bad number for the CPI for China, and the PPI again hit the mark. Pretty good forecasters there. And
I thought it was larger than that, actually. Oh no, it was just a beat, wasn't it? It was a huge beat from last time round. I think from what I read was that the inflation numbers were a little bit misleading because there was a bout of African swine flu, and it did actually surge food prices up in China. So they're a little bit misleading, but still quite positive. The fact that they've got that inflation and the market is starting to bubble along over there.
Okie dokie, and we've got PPI figures there, of course, the finished goods, or we call them wholesale prices here in Australia, I think. Then we've got a whole chunk of Fed members having a little yak. I think it would be very unusual, now that we've seen the minutes of the last meeting, for them to make any difference. I don't know that, unless they're going to say something completely different, or they're going to buck the trend, or whatever the case may be. I don't know, or that that Trump is going to come and fire Jerome Powell. I don't know, whatever. We will see what happens, but I don't think I'll be terribly interested. I've got to be fair. After, I don't think I'll even be interested in the PPI numbers. I think I'll have packed up and put my little chart to bed for the week. But stranger things have happened. I guess I'm saying that because I don't have, at this point in time, a whole lot of interest in the market. Except for, I think it's two things, and we'll get to those directly. But before we go any further, Ash, it was March 29, it went to April 12, and now it's October 31, as I understand it.
Yes, so the extension has been extended, and I think it's fairly flexible. I think that what I read or is quite happy to accept that the UK could leave before if they can ratify a deal through Parliament. Also, quite interestingly, Leo Varadkar, the Irish Premier, has come out and said that the UK could stay in or could be part of a customs union and still have a say around the top table about how those customs are formulated. I mean, the problem with it at the minute, the customs union, is that if the UK stay within the customs union, then they will have no say on trade deals. But what he's saying is that they can have a say, they can have a vote on trade deals that the EU do with other countries, but it still locks the UK into the fact that they can't do separate trade deals, which is the big problem. And it's been the big one of the sticking points.
Just if I can just butt in there, that means they can't negotiate outside the EU. Is that?
That's right. That's right. So the EU will negotiate for all members of the EU.
Wow.
Which is right in many respects, because the one thing the EU is trying to do is make trade fair right across the board. You know, they don't want inter-competition within the club. They want to say these are the tariffs that we're charging on Japan or Canada and the United States, and these are what we're giving back to them as a club. So if you offer this particular service and so does Spain, then you're both charging the same tariffs. So
how does that work now? Is that the same now, or is this a new thing?
Oh no, that's the single market. That's the four freedoms. You know, the four freedoms are freedom of movement of people, so anybody can go anywhere. Freedom of goods and services, which is effectively tariff-free access to everybody's markets. Freedom of money and freedom of goods. So you know, the same with services and goods are kind of they're not bunched in together. So so yes, it is the same. That's been the same from day one, really. That the customs are charged the same. So the UK wouldn't be able to go and do separate trade deals with the United States of America, because they would have to abide by the EU customs laws, which would negate the benefits of doing a trade deal with another country. So yeah, so that's where we're at with that. So yeah, it kicks it down the road. The European elections are in May. I think the EU were a little bit reticent to allow the UK to challenge those, because they could actually have a load of right-wing MEPs put in the European Parliament and just cause a whole bunch of problems, like Nigel Farage did in the first place. You know, this is really where it all happened. And there have been some conservative Brexiteer politicians that have said that's what we will do. We'll just put in our most difficult people and cause as many problems as we possibly can for you guys. So you know, they did bend quite a lot to allow that to happen. You know, to allow the extension to happen.
Yeah, it's pretty nice of them, really, when they didn't really have to, and they've been kind of more than generous, I would have thought, with their.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's of no benefit to anyone. The one country that weren't so generous was France. You know, Emmanuel Macron is certainly playing to his home audience, and he was you know, he was a difficult customer for the UK. He wasn't he didn't want this extension. He said, for you guys to be granted an extension, you really have to have a good reason to have the extension. But the rest of the EU were a lot more generous. I think there's quite a lot of sympathy for Theresa May within the EU nations. You know, they recognise that she is doing her best and that she's working hard to try and get this over the line and get it sorted. So they are, I think, trying to be generous, probably because of her. And this is one thing that I will say about her, is that she's certainly tenacious, but she's just up against a brick wall. I mean, it depends how this thing ends up, but it may well be that she was the only person that could have taken this job, because it was never going to get completed. You know, it was never going to work. So maybe the only person that could actually see it through to the point where they just will still be in office and at least there's not continued disruption. Maybe she's the only one who could have done it.
Maybe.
Incidentally, the Labour. the Labour Party want the customs union. So that, Theresa May have said no customs union, but they are one party that want the customs union. So maybe with Leo Varadkar coming out and saying that, maybe that puts that thing a little closer. We've also had a potential revoke back on the table as well, and I think they possibly would have revoked Article 50. There would have been a gamble, but the EU could have said, "I'll tell you what, you guys leave on Friday." And then I think there would have been MPs that would have been happy to revoke Article 50 altogether.
So at the end of the day, here we are again, I guess, and it's probably better than the guess, I suppose. I think the market probably will now go into who cares mode until this, I guess, raises its head again in October.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
it does mean that we can trade the numbers, rather than being worried about Brexit hangovers and the like.
Well, that's a good thing. Have you got any numbers that you like at the moment? Is the FTSE looking like a tradable commodity at this point?
The FTSE's a little bit tricky. I mean, China's was a little bit soft overnight. The FTSE 100 did bounce off the weekly pivot, so we were looking for that particular point. That happened at 5 o'clock a.m. my time, so there was not really an opportunity while I was sleeping to get into that. But that did bounce, and it didn't quite hit my order because I did put an order in the market. It didn't quite hit it for some reason. I think it was a little bit. I was a little bit low. So nothing there, but now it's gone up to this point. I'm not so keen on trying to get down here because it looks to me like the daily pivot may hold it up, but we've got this trend line here that the market will probably reject and then bounce up from. So I think we are looking for upside. I think the upside could be muted. The probability of closing above the open today is much higher than it was yesterday, which I will quickly have a look at. What day are we in today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8th day. Actually quite weak. Yeah, there's a little suggestion here that this week would be probably one of the worst weeks of the FTSE. So looking for longs may not be the best option here. The question is what drives it lower. The overnight as well. It sounds like the United States and China are all but ready to finalise and sign off the trade deal. So so that looks like it's going to get done fairly soon. I think if we are looking for the market to retrace, it probably be again from this 73.70 area. So probably if we're going to look for a retracement, if this pops up, maybe go to yesterday's pivot and then pops back down again. But the fact that we've now pretty much tested, we didn't quite test the weekly pivot, which is why I wonder whether we might see it, but we were pretty close. So we've now tested that area and we've rejected it, and we've started to go. If the market is going to come down, maybe we start to see these areas again, or possibly it could be the daily pivot. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens here. But nothing suggesting downside, mate. Yesterday was the one opportunity to see whether we could get some serious downside, which is what we need. This market is just too overdone up here. It's a bit overcooked for my taste, but we can't think about downside because the market does hate changing direction. It's got to have a good reason to change direction, and I don't see what it could be. There's no numbers that are coming out which would suggest that there's a change of direction. There's no policy announcements that you got the FOMC various members speaking later on. Is that going to do a lot? I don't know.
You wouldn't think so.
No, and looking into the crystal ball, maybe trade balance from China on Friday. Maybe that might change things a little bit. But yeah, aside from that, I don't really have any anything else, mate.
All right, mate. I'm going to have a look at a few things that we were doing yesterday and how they panned out. Nothing spectacular, I'd have to say, but nothing disastrous either. So it's pretty much the case at the moment. It's a bland ride, I think, is the best way I can describe it. I have seen a lot of flashing lights here.
Yeah, the euro was really interesting yesterday, actually, wasn't it? That was one market that we were both looking at.
Yeah, look, my thing yesterday was I couldn't trade it short. Sorry, I couldn't trade it long because of what I saw, which was this candle here. And I did place an order underneath it, and we got to TP1, but that's as good as it got. We're hanging in by the skin of our teeth here.
Oh, well, good going though.
In an attempt to make profit out of this, but it looks very much like they do want to challenge this high again. And if that's the case, then TP1 will be as good as it gets on this trade. Look, whilst the monthly pivot's there, I suppose there's hope. So we won't give that one up. But where I said yesterday that I couldn't trade this long, I'm not so confident today that that's the case, given what we saw yesterday, which was very much and I suspect if we hadn't had the news event, then we may well have broken through here, because the news event certainly dragged the market back, and then it went straight back like a drinking straw. It was amazing. Anyway, I don't see any possible thing to do here right now except wait, and the wait is, I guess, if the monthly pivot breaks and the top of the channel breaks, I probably turn into a bull. At the end of the day, I don't like what I'm seeing here in terms of tradability. Double bottom, yes. Lower high, sorry, higher low. I suppose technically it is, but it's not the way I would like to see a higher low. I'd like to see hit resistance, come off in a nice, timely manner, maybe hit a support level, then turn around. I don't like that for long, but again, I wouldn't like to be entering the market short right now either. That's right now. It may change throughout the day, but we'll see how we go. Sorry, what were you going to say, mate?
And not too much really, just about the euro, but just on the euro, it was interesting because we had Mario Draghi come out, and again, he didn't really say anything too spectacular, but and it would have been a hairy trade, and that was some of the issue with it, because when it came down to the level that I was looking at, it was just tanking at that particular point. It wasn't nice and gentle at all, but it's held up, as you say. It's held up. You went to bed.
I went to bed, and I don't know. I must have had a dream thinking that this is going to reverse, and I woke up and it had.
Yeah.
All I got was TP1. TP2 eluded me, unfortunately, but never mind.
Yeah, it was a crazy move, and not 100% sure what it was about. I mean, Mario Draghi did say that the ECB are still accommodative, which helps help the FTSE 100. It's certainly nothing negative to global markets. And he was also asked actually whether he sees a risk of recession, and he said that the softening that he sees in the euro area is actually indicative of soft patches, and something like 7 out of 10 or quite a high number hasn't turned into a recession. So he said the chances of recession are actually quite low, which is another reason why all the kind of rhetoric about trade wars and everything else actually seem to be sort of like swept aside right now. I did just see that there's some GDP from China as well next week, and that could be the catalyst that starts to drive us lower. But certainly, nobody's done or said anything which would suggest downside, and I just don't understand why the euro would rally unless the dollar weakens. Unless it's a dollar story across the board. I don't understand why the euro would rally, because I heard the whole press conference and he didn't say anything that was particularly positive euro, except for when he was pushed on the on the recession factor, and he was also pushed on the trade war between the United States and Europe, and he said that yes, he sees it as a possible problem, but by the same token, nothing has happened as yet. So don't get overexcited, which I think is wise advice.
Yep. Okay. I'll be honest. I'm a little bit don't really know right now what's going to happen. Whilst the monthly pivot's holding here, I'm expecting some sort of retracement, maybe to the bottom of the channel, but then it may turn into a nice opportunity to get long at that point. The fact that we've come back into the range that I've got here is maybe significant, but the monthly pivot is obviously holding price up at the moment. If it can remain that way, happy days. Maybe a weekly pivot test then along. Don't know. I'll take it as it comes. The other one that we were in yesterday was Euro Yen. And once again, TP1, that wasn't the entry. The entry was that was the entry there. I've actually got another order in place because we hit TP1. Actually moved my stops to entry that time. They've now been taken out. And I'm kind of thinking this new order is not it's not a good idea right now.
Yeah, I can see what you're looking at with. Yeah, this is a tricky one, isn't it? Those pivots are potentially going to hold it up.
They are, and I think we're now looking at a better entry if we're still thinking short. So I'm inclined to take this one off. Just can it. What I was playing here was basically double top, bearish engulfing bar, lower high, and that's what I was playing yesterday as well. It just hasn't panned out that way at this point. Fortunately, we've got a TP1, so there's no damage done, but yeah, kind of surprising, really. I really would have expected this market to fall, and it has not. Maybe that time is to come. And as I say, there may be a better entry if we find resistance here and then climb back underneath the trend line. Maybe take the pivots out, then retest the confluence anywhere here. That might be the time to go, which will give me probably an entry around about the same. But I think I'm going to cancel this right now. In fact, I will just get rid of it and look for a better opportunity, I think. EuroCAD was another, and I don't think I got round to placing an order on EuroCAD, but no, I didn't. Had I done so, it would have been exactly the same scenario. TP1 at weekly pivot and be now probably out at this point, or very close there too. So TP1's all over the place on the euro, but nothing better. It's just a toughie to try and get anything out of. Euro pound's another one. This is one I'm looking at today, in fact, and I am keen to trade this. We've got a potential head and shoulders sitting here. You can see the monthly pivots holding this up, of course, but really what I'm wanting to play here is the bounce off the top, bearish engulfing bar, lower high. It does really get me interested here, so I'll be looking for that to happen. If it were to be this candle, I'd be a little spooked by it. And the reason is we're trading straight into a monthly pivot that, as you can see, since it was broken, has remained support and strong support. So it's not as easy as it seems here. The pivots are a bit of an issue. And when you've got a ranging market, that's always going to be the case because the pivots come together naturally enough. And we haven't really seen any one of these crosses, in particular the euro and the pound, of course, because of Brexit uncertainty, hasn't really broken out of this range for some time. And that's why we're seeing the pivots very close together.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We've been waiting for a bit of certainty, and okay, we don't have a great deal, apart from the fact they've kicked it down the road. But the pound has been actually quite muted so far, anyway. Off the back of that,
we might get a different story in 1 minute's time or in 20 seconds time.
Yeah, as the UK opens, we might well do.
We'll go into a smaller time frame and have a look at that, see what that looks like in 10, 9, 8, 7. And of course, Ash, the big thing this week is it's Masters week.
The Masters?
Yep.
Golf?
Yeah, I was watching the par 3 competition there earlier. You're not into golf?
No, I have to say, mate, I'm not into golf. Do you know, the only golf that I will watch and enjoy is the Ryder Cup.
Yep.
I like how much emotion goes through that particular event. But yeah, it's the only one that I can do. I can't really do the others. Playing golf, I love it, but I'm rubbish. I mean, it's I can't hit the thing straight at all. So it's a little bit frustrating for me, but I do love it. I think it's a great sport, and what a great way to have a little walk around, isn't it? Churchill said something about that, didn't he? Good way
He
to
did.
spoil a good walk is to play golf or something like that.
If you
Yeah, so
understand golf at all,
yeah,
I can't think of the name of the book. It's a PG Woodhouse book. Great read, absolute great read. And if you are able to do so, if you've never watched the final round of the Masters, you must do that. Do yourself a favour.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Well, the last 9 holes anyway. That's very dramatic.
okay, all right. Well, maybe I will do that, but yeah, we don't get that much exposure. I think the Ryder Cup might even be on terrestrial TV, where we don't get anything else on terrestrial TV. But
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
shame of it all, isn't it? We've
that's
got
the
to
only
pay for
one. Yeah,
everything these days. It really gives me
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
SH1Ts, I've got to tell you.
yeah.
But
They do.
anyway,
They do like to charge you for whatever there is.
yes, indeed. What am I seeing here? I'm seeing something here. 15-minute chart. Don't normally look at the 15-minute chart. That's interesting.
Yeah, so the market has opened up. I see the pound has had a little bit of a pop, and the euro has just stayed where it was. The FTSE popped up, but it's just coming back again. Probably providing some opportunities here.
I might have a chance here. If this were to close in this vicinity and then we got a bull bar, I'd be pretty happy with that, and I'd trade it short. We'll see. That is
What we
euro
got here?
Let's go to the Aussie, I suppose. The Aussie's been on fire for the last few days, and I'm not 100% sure why, to be fair. I guess the commodity currencies are doing okay. But outside of that, I don't really have a clue.
Actually, you know what? The pound is doing pretty well so far, isn't it?
Go back to I haven't been to the pound yet. Yeah, it is. So far. The thing with, oh my God. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Phew, I thought I'd lost it again.
Yeah.
I just want to have a look at the relative strengths here. And let's go with the week so far. This is all versus the dollar, of course, and everything's still above the dollar except the Swissy so far this week. And the Aussie's the best performed currency. Pound's on the way, I think it may be. Interestingly, the euro. Wow.
So well, I suppose it's going to boost them both, isn't it?
I suppose it is. What have we got year to date? Year to date, I thought was interesting when I had a look at that the other day. Pound the best currency against the dollar. Euro the worst. What's that telling me? By a big way, there's 4% difference.
It's still got a little bit of work to do to get through that, but if anything could give it a catalyst, it could be Brexit, couldn't it? You know,
well,
just the dust settling. And this is what we talked about yesterday, didn't we? Just sort of like saying that some of that short covering will probably need to, it can come off the table now.
Yeah, I think so.
That protection that people have got in the pound can come off the table. So this may well be a catalyst for a rally. I mean, certainly until October. They don't need to worry now until October, so they can have a little bit more confidence that the pound could be about to strengthen. I mean, it's just paused a little bit, but I quite like this now.
Yeah, they're not actually sure, are they? There's definitely someone around to say that the Bulls aren't going to get it their own way.
No, absolutely right.
And that right shoulder is holding, isn't it? Wow.
In the pound dollar?
In cable, yeah.
Yeah. Inverted head and shoulders, yeah.
Interesting. I may have a trade coming up on euro pound if it. Oh, gee whiz. Okay, I may not either.
What's just happened?
It's a little bit volatile, the opening.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's not a huge surprise. We probably just need to let it settle down a little bit, but not a huge surprise, I don't think.
Well, I would have thought the pound going north wouldn't have been a surprise, but at the moment, it may well be the reverse of that.
I see what you mean. Yeah, the euro is going that way. Pound is stable. Euro trying to pop forward. Yeah, I guess we need to let the first 15 minutes pass, don't we?
I think so. Yeah, look, it's kind of a situation where I've got to wait here for a long time, and I've got the Aussie crosses at resistance. I've got to wait until they break resistance and then come back underneath resistance in the case of the Aussie. In the case of Aussie yen, I've got to wait for it to come off the highs and give me a lower high. In the case of Aussie CAD, I've got to wait for it to come back under resistance and use it once again. I kind of frustrated. The dollar yen's going long again. That surprises me.
Yeah, that surprises me too. Let me just check that.
When I say going, the last 4 candles are certainly bullish.
Yeah, I mean, the bouncing off the monthly pivot, I suppose, was the technical area for it to bounce from. But we're getting to a point of resistance now, aren't we?
Well, it's been using the daily pivot fairly well. Bounce, bounce. But this time it's above the daily pivot, which is interesting.
Yeah.
As I said, I think it was earlier in the week or maybe even last week, there's no fait accompli here as far as a trend is concerned.
No.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least. It wouldn't have surprised me in the least. It probably will now, but it wouldn't have surprised me in the least had this taken on these highs before it dipped. But the dip now looks like a dip rather than a selling spree. If you look at this chart,
yeah, it does look. It does appear that there's something going on, doesn't it? That is still. It still needs a bit of clearing out. It's the same with the FTSE here. You know, you can see this FTSE over here. It just it's popped forward, but then it's rejected. In fact, it popped just above the daily pivot, but it's rejected that. It's come back to test this trend line. So again, a little bit unclear. But the fact that we so convincingly rejected that area. Was like, I don't know whether that's telling or not. It's difficult to read, isn't it?
I think so. Well, actually, what I'm seeing is not difficult for me. It's either stay out or wait, and that's pretty much where I'm at, because everything I see is at a level that's bounce or break, and the euro looks to be back in charge here. That's certainly the case on everything, including the pound. It's looking for higher levels.
Yeah. Obviously perceived better for the euro than anything else.
Certainly at this point. But yeah, I'm going to hang around, mate, and do nothing really until I've got something that resembles a setup. And as I say, these crosses are at resistance, but they've got a lot of work to do for me to be able to trade them. So it may well be that I'll have a look in the morning, but for the rest of the day, it's not looking flash.
No, certainly isn't, is it? Well, I mean, I'm going to wait as well. I think when I look at this, the FTSE, the price that I really want, certainly won't be buying at the pivots with the market the way it is right now. But the price that I'd love, where are we at? Would be down here. Now there is an area, when we're just kind of looking at pure price action, there is a reason that the market is holding up at this particular point. and if it does continue to hold this particular point, that would suggest that we have a pattern in play, which that's going to bring us some sort of measured move. But that measured move sees us a lot higher than it is now. I don't know where the pattern exactly goes. It doesn't look like a channel, but it might be something like that. Looks a bit of a broadening pattern, but it certainly does take us a lot higher than we are now. I would prefer, yeah, somewhere up there, maybe even 7,600, which would, that's gonna be another 150 pips. I would prefer to see the market break down to here before going long, really, but it continues to be fairly positive and resilient. Now, with the euro, I suspect we are probably popping higher because the potential catalyst for a downward trajectory really was yesterday, and that's being it got gobbled straight up. I mean,
Yes,
this bar was quite telling, and this is the thing. I think if you have a news release, the next bar really does tell you quite a lot of how that news release was absorbed, and this is the way that it was absorbed. Well, in fact, that's the daily. So let's not go with the daily. Look at the 4-hourly though. I think this is really telling. That's how the news and the data was absorbed. So that becomes a really fascinating and an interesting bar. That really does tell us quite a lot about the way the market felt. It doesn't give us an entry by any stretch, but it does tell us that there is enough strength down here that if it comes down again, the market will take off. Now, the fact that people have bought in this particular area, that comes down to something else entirely, and it still becomes a little bit tricky because you've got the pivots there, but this bar itself does actually give away a lot of information on the 4-hour. And the 4-hour is the best one to look for in many respects, if as long as it doesn't go too far, because it will tell you that it will certainly it will firstly provide a reaction, but then it will provide whether it's held from the reaction, and it absolutely did, didn't it? It really did tell us quite a lot there.
Yeah, look, I don't know why if we are surprised, that we should be surprised in any way as to what's happened, because if you have a look at that chart, this is the 4-hour chart. We're speaking about the inverted head and shoulders, the fact that we'd actually broken the neckline and we hadn't had a retest of the neckline, which is one of the major reasons that I couldn't go long yesterday, and that's now changed, because look at that. That it's pre-tested that to the pip, and they're gone. This may well finish up here, may well, and impossible to trade that candle, of course. So there was really no way in once that had happened. If you were in and you held on, happy days. But yeah, very difficult to get into that move, that's for sure. Maybe there's another chance. Now that we're back in here, we might come off the top of this little channel and come back and retest this one. If that's the case, and we get a decent candle, then maybe there is another chance to get in there. But that's the way it looks to me now. It looks, as I said yesterday, couldn't go short. Couldn't go long. Today, different story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the picture has definitely changed, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just bringing this FTSE back in again. Yeah, it's held that trend line, and it makes it very difficult, to really get a message here. But this does look actually, with all intents and purposes, that this market is probably going to attempt to go higher, especially if it manages to hold this trend line. But we've got to wait an hour or 45 minutes before we know. This is an hourly bar here, and again, looking at the longer term time frames is going to be key, because it really will tell us so much more about not just small reactions, but how those reactions end up. So this the previous hour is closed just above the daily pivot. This hour has rejected it, but let's see if it holds this point. If it holds this point, I think there's probably some longs in the market that will probably get triggered in here.
Okay, well, that's just about expires what I wanted to talk about in terms of the currency pairs. What else is going on, mate? Bitcoin, how's that? Still above 5,000 or
Yes, yeah, great question. Where are we at, Bitcoin? Yeah, it's come off a little bit, but this is the chart on Bitcoin. Let's bring it into play with this and just have a look at what that means longer term for Bitcoin.
Do we ever find out why they spike like that? What drives it? Does anyone ever say?
There are websites that you can use. So there's a website called Coinbase or something. Let me see. Yeah, Coinbase, and that gives actually. Oh no, maybe not. That's a platform. I don't trust platforms. Let me just have a look at this instead.
Seems to be at a resistance trend line from what I'm seeing there. Maybe it's just poked its head through it.
Yeah, let's have a quick look. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So the longer term time frames, all we can do really is kind of draw some of these here. That it's not a decisive close by any stretch, but it is a close above. So I think there's going to be traders interested somewhere along the trend line now, somewhere at about 4. If it dips back below, there's going to be something there. I think people were looking at the 5,000 area.
What's that big horizontal support level there, just above? Is that a significant number?
Let's have a look. This one here.
Yeah.
5.7. That would give us 6 there.
6 it is then, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Coming down to the daily chart here. Yeah, I mean that area has held, so this trend line is obviously being respected here. Looks like it broke through, retested, and it's gone again. So I think coming back down to 4,820 will provide another possibility for those buyers to kind of step in, and I suspect they probably will do.
And I don't care.
I'm just going to check the measured move. No, this is oh yeah, I mean that's the two is quite nice about it though. It's pretty clean, There's very few lines here that you needed to follow. There's one line here that when it broke through, it really did take off the next day. I don't know whether measured moves apply so well, but let's just double check it. Yeah, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. It does seem to be sort of very pattern based. Just looking at this, maybe it's not been around long enough to kind of respect some of the other areas, pivots and things like that, and moving averages. But certainly patterns look pretty good with Bitcoin. So I think there is probably some weakness coming in here, but I think down to 48.20. And a hold there, and I think Bitcoin's probably going to go higher and probably up to this 6,000 mark, and then who knows,
I certainly don't.
I mean, looking over this chart as well. I suppose you could make a case either way. I'm just seeing just how often it actually respects the lines. Channel there. That was a difficult one, but this one down here again was kind of respected. When the line broke, it really did give way. When this line when it broke through. Not as yet, no. Which I suppose is why that 6,000 will be even more interesting now. Actually, that's a little bit higher, isn't it? But no, you're absolutely right. There was no retest. There has been no retest of the breakout. But it looks like a place that maybe a place to get in would be get as many lines on the charts as possible, and see what that does. I mean, it is worth mentioning. Yeah, interesting that there was news that it could have been an April Fool's joke. That was the first thing. Price latest to skyrocket amid cryptocurrency.
Was that the first? Was it?
On the first, yeah.
Yeah. How do they play with so much money? Surely it takes a fair bit of money to drive the market to there.
I mean, yeah, people would say some stupid things. I mean, who's going to April Fools just to drive the Bitcoin up, just to, you know, so they, as you say, what an expensive way to do it.
Absolutely.
Let me just see if we got anything here. It marks the highest value Bitcoin has traded since 2019, represents a jump of around about $1,000 since the start of last week, which is incredible, really. If you think it's gone from 4,000 to 5,000, which is giving it a 25% gain or 20% gain in a day, it's just what a crazy market Bitcoin is.
Yes, I mean, think of it in terms of well, the stock exchange, the Dow, the you know, what's the biggest company you can think of in the world? You know, BHP. Think of it in those terms. Those things don't move so much in a year.
Yeah. Absolutely. Actually, interestingly here, it says cryptocurrency experts have raced to pinpoint a reason for the market turnaround, but have so far struggled. The theories ranging from a major buyer placing a big order. I mean, all right, I suppose there could be a lot of major buyers, but you think that would be probably quite likely. And then to an April Fool's joke gone awry. I mean, it's just you know, putting your finger in the air and you know, licking your finger and trying to predict yeah, exactly. Bitcoin has sprung back to life on a new wave of momentum, said Simon Peters, an analyst at the online trading platform. Are you kidding me? Has sprung back to life on a new wave of momentum. I mean, you can see that on the chart. You don't need to be paid to say that. Breaking above 5,000 psychological barrier means Bitcoin's next resistance level is due for recalibration. The new resistance level of 6,000, they've picked the same thing, where price held for months last year is now in play.
Okay, far more interesting is the gold chart, mate.
Yeah, let's bring that up.
What a beautiful little looking trend that is. That's underway on the 4-hour chart that I'm looking at. And if you're a fan of gold right now, you'd be very close to be thinking 113 is going to be a place to buy. I would think. I don't use
resistance here.
This is someone else's template, so I don't use the moving averages, but it's kind of compelling here that you've got a horizontal level, you've got whatever that is. That moving average, 15-period moving average. If they converge and there's a reversal bar there, I think there'll be a lot of people interested in that trade.
Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, Ben's just telling us that one buyer bought 20,000 Bitcoin, equaling $100 million. My goodness. This is the thing. One person moving a market, and that's the problem with Bitcoin, isn't it? It's really Wild West stuff. Sorry, mate. I just got distracted by the comment in the box there. So gold. So it's in this in a I guess a bit of a pattern here, isn't it? Do you know where you want it at 113? Did you say?
You're around about 113. Oh, sorry, 1,300, not 113.
1,300. Yeah. Do you know when I look at this pattern?
Actually, it's a bit higher. It's about 13. It's about where it is. You know, let's say 1304.
You'd be quite happy to go long here.
I don't trade gold, but the chart looks very much like a buy, right? Well, very close to a buy.
You see, I would like gold if it came down to 1284.
Right.
This pattern to me looks like it's in play. Now we'd have to do the seasonals on this to know.
What are you looking at?
This is the daily, yeah. Yeah, it looks very much in play, but I think this area would hold unless something significant was to happen. But I would quite like to see gold down here, and then I'd be a buyer for sure. Now, what we got on the weekly? Let's just double check the other charts. It's kind of steep, isn't it? But I mean, it would mean if it broke to the upside. Yeah, it could see us back to these highs, depending on if or when that broke. If that broke to the upside in May, that could be quite interesting for gold. That would suggest gold could well hit its peaks again up here.
All right. What about oil, mate? Oil's just hanging around there, around about the $64 mark, and doing absolutely jack.
Yeah, so tensions in Libya pushed the oil price up again. That's what we were talking about the other day. And where are you? There it is. Fairly close to a... Yeah, it could be close to a horizontal level there. Yeah, that line looks like it may well hold here. The picture's certainly unclear, but if we got some sort of reversal bar by tomorrow, then I think we see oil retrace, and it would be probably well overdue. It's a little bit like the FTSE, isn't it? Markets have got pretty overcooked and ahead of themselves. But again, you're probably looking for, that would be a little bit shallow, but maybe down to
62.10 maybe.
Yeah, 62.10. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that would be the first point of call, wouldn't it? And then it's just whether it can get back to its highs. This area would be better, but that's going to be time frame correlated. So sometime around about the last week in April, if it came down to this area here, that would be better, because then you'd have an area of confluence.
What's that, around about 58, 59 or something?
Yeah, no, it's actually around about 60, just a little bit above 60. It depends on when it comes down, obviously. But if it came down around about the 18th, it would bring it back down to 60. So I'd be looking at I'd be uncomfortable looking for the short, but I'd be much more happy if I could go long down here. Than anywhere else. Fairly tepid open, really, isn't it? I mean, we've got the euro still attempting, but struggling a little to get beyond this high here. But it looks like it could break out at some point today. The pound, any attempt to move to the upside has been damaged. And now I wonder what they wait for with that. I still think coming down to this area with a pound could be a buying opportunity. Around about 13, maybe 1307-ish kind of area. I think there's a possible buying opportunity there. The FTSE is, to a degree, it's struggling to find direction. It is certainly kind of bearish right now. This trend line is just about holding up, but in not a particularly confident manner. So maybe the run to the upside could well be done, but we can't really trust it. This is a buy zone for sure. Whether it's going to break to the upside, I'm not too sure, is the thing. But certainly, if it comes up to this point again, then that'll probably provide a selling opportunity rather than anything else, because it hasn't really it hasn't done anything with any particular confidence. So yeah, pretty tepid open, mate. I suppose it's maybe the calm after the storm in this particular scenario, because yesterday we did have the storm, didn't we, with the euro as it pushes again to try and get for through some upside. So the euro's got to take out 12.88, I guess, isn't it? Maybe 12.90, and then we could well see a fairly decent rally from that point.
Yeah, I can definitely see it getting to. Let me put a number on this. I can definitely see it getting to 113 today. Don't think I can see it getting any further than that without something to drive it, to be fair. So it's going to hit resistance there, and what happens next, I'm not 100% sure. 30-minute charts, I'll just very briefly run through those to give you an indication of what I might be looking for if I am to trade today. And
yeah, let's have a look.
Then I'm just about done, I think. Euro dollar, as you can see, is just hanging around the monthly pivot, but significantly has broken above it, closed above it on a 30-minute chart. If it were to be that on a 4-hour chart, then I think you're entitled to start thinking long. I don't, unless you're in this now, it's really, really hard to get into it unless something significant like a break and retest of a trend line or a confluence area that looks likely on the 4-hour chart, perhaps a break of this resistance trend line and a retest of monthly pivot and confluence area here. That kind of gets me interested long, and I would be willing to hang on to 113.60, taking profit obviously along significant points along the way. But I'm not in this long at the moment, so unless that happens, it's going to be tough. Euro CAD, be happy to trade that short if it came back inside this range. In particular, if it doesn't take out this high, that would be something interesting. There's also something interesting here. This might be false break number 2. We might have to wait for false break number 3 if we are to get serious about this, but definitely if it comes back inside here, gets back underneath the monthly pivot, and then gives me a lower high, I have to get interested in a short. That's Euro CAD. But nothing there at the moment. Euro Yen, not dissimilar, except it is a fair way off its highs. Taking on, of course, yesterday's high as we speak, and that's quite significant because that was, you know, the immediate reaction to news was bullish here, but then bang, away she went. I can't trade it long. I just know I can't trade it long here, but I can't trade it short right now either. So I don't think there's anything there of interest to me on Euro Yen, to be fair. Euro Pound, I was keen and still am to find a lower high here. If that takes, you know, for the rest of the day, I'll probably be asleep. But if in the next hour and a half we do see a reversal bar here, it's going to be tough. There's no room for profit here. He says you're going to have to trade straight into the monthly pivot. That has been very strong as support in the last week, as you can see. Oh, I don't know. I think maybe I'd rather see it find its way back up to here, the 86.38 level, then put in the lower high, then give me some room to take profit before these pivots. That's probably the best case scenario. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that would be the best case scenario. So that's what I'm thinking. Euro Aussie, interesting couple of bars, the last two. Let me go a bit wider. Yeah, look, it looks to be away. It really does. It looks to be away. And this may just be the retest that's required of the daily pivot, and then it's just going to fall. That's what it looks like to me. Because it's closed below.
Yeah, the Aussie's been really strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. No question about that. But that said, you know, it's at resistance now, so it's got to find some sort of retracement at some stage. So this is not looking anything but bearish. I've got to say that. but yeah, tough to get in. If you're really, really keen to get in here, and this has got 13 hours to go, this being the daily chart, tomorrow there may just be a trade short under here. If that looks like that, then certainly that would tend to be an indication that there is downside left. This little double top forming here on the daily pivot's also interesting on the 4-hour chart. Tough to trade this short for me right now, I've got to say, but 35 pip risk, yeah, you haven't got one-to-one. It's too tough. I'll leave it alone. The Aussie, as I said, is at resistance. And let me see how significant that resistance is. It's a fairly substantial trend line, no question. And I would be expecting at least a hold here, if not a retracement back to the top of the range. So I'm looking for a deeper retracement here than the daily pivot. I don't think I'd be too keen to trade this long at this point. The 30-minute chart, can I trade it short is the question. Not yet. I'd have to see the daily pivot get broken before I did that, or I'd have to see maybe a trend line up here somewhere. No, it's still too close. I don't want to trade short unless we're up here. So if there's something there later, happy days, but I won't be interested because I won't be trading. I'll be asleep. Cable, that candle's a bit tough to trade, no question, but it's also a bit tough to read, given what we think is going to happen to the pound as a result of the Brexit delay. And if you look at this trend line, you know, why hasn't it bounced here? Confluence, daily pivot, trend line. Once we saw that happen with the open, you'd think the high's got to be challenged, but so far that's not the case. Wonder if I could get interested in this. If we were to break below the pivots, consolidate under here, find our way back above the trend line, and then retest either the daily pivot, weekly pivot, or indeed the trend line, do you reckon that's going to be a good case for a long? But we may have missed it. It may still go from here. You know, this does look like a great bounce point. There's no question about that. So, yeah. But, you know, against that, if you use your imagination just a little bit more and go to, yeah, it's not really evident there. I was thinking head and shoulders here, but it's a bit of a stretch to be calling that a head and shoulders, so I won't. I'm still bullish, and we'll look for that false break. And this is probably my favorite at the moment. Why? Well, simply because we're at the top of this range, and we've had a hell of a time trying to get through it. As you can see, since the beginning of the year, basically, we've been going bang, 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 bang again. A false break here gets me really interested. I don't see this as an opportunity to trade long in any way, shape, or form. So break here, consolidate, back underneath, lower high, bang, I'm short. I'm happy with that if that's the case. Aussie CAD also at resistance, but oh yeah, we got a trend line there. Same story. You know, if we can find price getting back underneath here and retesting the confluence area, daily pivot and trend line, again, I'll be looking to trade this short. In fact, I'll be happy with that. That would work for me. Oh, this is the one we were looking at earlier in the week too, Ash.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah.
Aussie CAD. So it's not gone yet. In fact, we might get the price that we're looking for. But of course, if it breaks out here, then all bets are off. But at this point in time, back under here, retest the confluence of daily pivot and trend line, gets me short, no problem. So if I were to stay up, and it is my wife's birthday, so the likelihood of me returning the charts is very minimal. I just might sneak a little peek a little bit later and see how that all pans out. But yeah, there are a few opportunities, but we're going to have to hang around. There's no question in my mind. There's nothing right now, but maybe there's something a bit later. Bullish engulfing bar, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This really is looking like a a bullish scenario for the for dollar yen, which surprises me. I thought once we got down here and beyond the monthly pivot that would be off, but so far not.
Yeah. It is surprising, mate, because we got a stronger euro, a weaker pound to a degree, stronger dollar, a weaker market as well, weaker FTSE 100. So yeah, it is surprising to see the yen is weaker. I would have thought the yen would be actually one of the currencies that was doing better against the dollar today.
Yep, certainly not looking the case at the moment. That said, we've still got this rejection of yesterday's daily pivot. We've still got a big bear bar sitting here, and we've still got a retest of that trend line. So if you wake up one day and it's down here and you say, well, why didn't I trade that? Looks obvious, doesn't it? We shall see. Whilst ever there's a lower high here in the making, that's still a possibility, but it doesn't look like it to me right now. It looks rather more like it wants to go long. We'll see. That's it, mate. I'm really done. I'm really about to pack up.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I don't really see too much out there that I'd really want to trade. I've got a FTSE 100 which is very, very tepid this morning, and probably much more likely to hold around these areas than do anything else. I don't see what is going to take it down. Now, if it is to come down, that's absolutely fine, because if this closes down below this weekly pivot, then we are looking for the short on retracement. If it doesn't close below the weekly pivot, I suspect we're in just a bit of a holding pattern, and that holding pattern is going to probably be some sort of head and shoulders formation where we're starting to see a left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. So it might just be that we kind of mess around in this area, which I suspect is probably the most likely. That's 11 long. It's currently 6 long, so it could be a few more periods, maybe even tomorrow, before we're looking for this head and shoulders to play out. So I'd probably anticipate another bounce. You know, not really kind of doing a whole bunch, but just continuing to bounce. Looks like this could be a trend line which is going to struggle to get through anyway. If it does come down, as I say, then we can look for the short on retracement. But realistically, what we're really after is the long down about here, about 72, 76, possibly this area here, 72, 90, 72, 300, something like that. So if the market starts to break down here, then we can enjoy the fact that we might well start getting better prices. If it holds again, then I would probably anticipate another pop to the upside and then pop to the downside before it eventually clears out. But yeah, fairly difficult one to read for a longer term trend here until we break one way or the other. Right now, the bias has to be to keep buying, but I'm not that keen on it right now as this distribution pattern seems to form. So I'm not going to keep buying here. I'm going to wait and see if either we break through this upper right shoulder, or we break below something of a neckline and continue to form a neckline, and then trade it short, maybe down to this area, or just wait for it to come to this area. So, yeah, I'm in waiting mode as well, mate. I'm going to wait and see, and maybe get back to it tomorrow. Maybe get back to it on Monday.
All right, mate. Yeah, look, guys, sorry there's not a whole lot of action to be had today. In fact, it's been a pretty dull week in terms of trying to find an entry. That happens, and hopefully next week it will be a little bit different to that. We'll find some ways into the market. We're going to call it quits and say goodbye to you now. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we look forward to your company when we'll do it all again from Monday at the same what?
Same trade time, same trade channel.
All right, mate. Have a great weekend, eh?
You too, buddy. You too. Speak soon.
See you guys.